Good day, everyone. So today we are looking at mathematics, and the topic we are considering is logical reasoning. Now, of course, the word reasoning is from the word reason. Now, what I need to explain the difference between thinking and reasoning. Now, thinking is the movement of the mind that does not arrive at a conclusion. The movement of the mind that does not arrive at a conclusion. And while reasoning is the movement of the mind that arrives at a conclusion. So when you reason about something, it means you have thought about it and then you've concluded. But when you think, you have not concluded on that particular stuff. So in reasoning that we're going to be doing, we are going to be making some statements, and then based on those statements, we are going to be making some judgments or conclusions. Okay? Now, having said that, we have two types of reasoning. We have two types of reasoning. We have one, we have inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning. And then two, we have deductive reasoning. So, those are the two types of reasoning that we have. Now, if you are looking at inductive reasoning, it's just like saying you are concluding a statement or an argument, and then you are looking at it from general to particular. You are looking at it from general to particular. That is, let's take for example, if you say all lawyers are liars, then Olu is a lawyer. Look at those two statements. What can you conclude from that? All lawyers are liars. Olu is a lawyer. Now if I say therefore Olu is what? Now you see that because you said all lawyers are liars, look at that. That's inductive reasoning. So I say all lawyers are liars. Olu is a lawyer. Therefore, Olu is a liar. That's the conclusion. So here now, you are assuming that since all lawyers are liars, you are starting from general, everybody, and then you narrow it down to an individual. So when you take a general situation to describe a particular situation, you call that inductive reasoning. That's what we mean. So all lawyers are liars. Olu is a lawyer. Therefore, Olu is a liar. But look at the situation of deductive reasoning, where you have to use a particular situation and then you generalize. So, for example, if I say Olu is a lawyer, Olu is also a liar, and I say therefore all lawyers are liars. Now what I have done here is that I have used Olu's case and then I use it to make a general conclusion. So inductive reasoning has to do with when you are making a judgment from you are using a general view to judge a particular individual. Like I have heard some people that they are dealing with a particular tribe and they will say, oh, all of them are like that. Some will say, oh, I don't trust that particular tribe, they are all like that. Why? Because they had experience with just one person in that tribe, and then they use that to conclude about everybody from there. So now what I need to explain here is that now this Olu is a liar is your conclusion. And these two other statements, you call them the premise or premises. That is the reason for your conclusion. So because that and then everything together is what we call an argument. Argument means a kind of statement or set of statements that have at least two premises and a conclusion. So it means you are not making an argument if you just make conclusion without a premise. A premise means the reason, the basis why you have made that conclusion. And so it is important that if you are making a conclusion, you must have reason or reasons for that conclusion. So in logical reasoning, you have to know what we call premise, you have to know what we call inference. The premise, of course, are the basis why you are making a conclusion, and the inference is the conclusion you have made. And everything combined together, you call it an argument. Okay, having said that, the next thing we are going to look at is proposition. Proposition. Now, proposition is a statement that can either be true or false. Proposition is just a statement that statement can either be true and it can also be false. So, very similar to what we call hypothesis. So, proposition is a statement that can either be true or false. For example, if I say the president of Nigeria is brilliant. Look at that statement. The president of Nigeria is brilliant. That's a statement. That's a proposition. That can either be true or false. Now, note, proposition is not a question. Proposition is not a question. If I say, is the president of Nigeria brilliant? You know, I can respond yes or no to that. That does not make it a proposition. As long as it's a question, it's not a proposition. Now, proposition is not a request. Proposition is not a request. For example, you know, there are some requests I can make. I say, can I have your pen? And then you can respond by saying, why not? Or you can respond by saying no or yes. Now, it's also looking like a true or false statement, but it is not a proposition as long as it is a request. And then proposition is not a command. It's not a command. So if I say, can you shut up and look at me? You know, the person can respond by saying, yes, sir. Or the person can say, no, sir. You know, it's also looking as if it's a false or true whatever. So, but it's not a proposition. So as long as it's a statement that can either be true or false, but it must not be a question, it must not be a request, and it must not be a command. That makes it a proposition. Now, in symbolic logic, proposition is always represented by letter P. So when I make a proposition, it's always represented by letter P, standing for the word proposition. And so we have what we call negation of a proposition. Negation of a proposition. Now, when you say negation of a proposition, negation means the opposite of a statement. If I said the president of Nigeria is brilliant, you can see that that's a statement. It's a proposition. It can either be true or false. Then the opposite of it is that the president of Nigeria is not brilliant. That's also a proposition. You can either say yes or no to it, but it is the opposite of the first one. So negation of a proposition is the opposite of a proposition. And you can always represent it with P prime or approximate P. Look at the sign. P prime or approximate P. So it means that anywhere you see P prime or approximate P, it means negation of a proposition. That is the opposite of a particular proposition. Okay, after that, the next thing we are going to look at are connectives. 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 And of course, the connectives that we are going to consider in this class are the two popular connectives, which are disjunction and conjunction. Disjunction and conjunction. Now, if you look at the first one, disjunction. Disjunction. Now, the disjunction is always represented by ver. This sign, which is V, you pronounce it as ver. Ver. And it is always represented by or. So anywhere you see or, it is a disjunction. And it's always represented by V in symbolic logic or logical reasoning. So vel, that's what we call it. So this is when two or more propositions are joined by or vel. So when two propositions are joined by or. When two propositions are joined by or, that's what we call vel or disjunction. Now, you must know that anytime you join two propositions with or vel, the truth always prevail. The truth always prevail. Now, what that means is that at every given point, when you have two propositions like, let's say, P vel Q, the moment you have vel, the truth will always prevail. That is when true and false are fighting. That is when a true statement come in contact with a false statement, the true statement will always prevail anytime it is vel. Anytime it is vel. And then you must note that. So I can write that true always prevail. Now, for the second one, which is the conjunction. Conjunction is always represented by caret. Look at this sign. We call it caret. And that's inverted V. And it is always represented by and. It is always represented by and. So in vel, which is and, false always prevail. False always prevail. Now let me give you an example of what I'm trying to say by truth always prevail, false always prevail. Now look at, if I have this situation, I have P and I have Q, and I have true, true, false, false, and I have true, false, true, false, and then I have P vel Q. Look at this. Now, because what I have here is vel sign, in vel, anytime you have true and false come fighting or coming together, the truth always prevails. So if you look at this, T and T, true will prevail. T and F, truth will prevail. F and T, truth will prevail. F and F will still be F. You see that? Now, to always know the one that will prevail, it depends on, are you using disjunction or conjunction? Now, look at the one of, if I have P and I have Q, and I have P caret Q. So I have true, true, false, false. And I have true, false, true, false. And then they would have given you this. They would have given you this. You are the one to find this. Now, in caret, when true and false are coming in contact, false always prevail. So here you have true and true is true. True and false is false. False and true is false. False and false is false. You see that? So that is what I mean by vel and caret. And then before I move away from that, I need to explain a situation where you have a question that you have, the negative, which is negation, and then you also want to do vel and caret. Now look at this question, for example. You have P, Q, P, approximate P, approximate Q, and then you have P vel Q, and then you have P caret Q, and then you want to solve this. The only thing they will give you is true, false, true, false, true, true, false, false. This is what you are given. You are now asked to fill the table. Now let's look at how you will do this. Now I told you that anytime you see this sign beside P, it means opposite of P, negation of P. So I'll just do the opposite of P in this place. You know, opposite of true is false. Opposite of false is true. Opposite of true is false. Opposite of false is true. You see that? That's negation. The negation for Q, that's the opposite of Q now. Opposite of true is false. Opposite of true is false. Opposite of false is true. Opposite of false is true. You see that? Then for veil, I told you that anytime you veil P and Q, this is your P and this is your Q. If you veil it, truth will always prevail. So if I have true and true, that will be true. False and true, that will be true. True and false, that will be true. False and false, that will be false. Then P caret Q, it means that false will always prevail. I said that the other time. So true and true is true. False and true is false. True and false is false. False and false is false. So you see that? So that is that about that. So I want you to take time to practice this very well. Now in my next video or next class, which will be part 2 of this symbolic logic, how I'm going to be looking at tautology and contradiction, and I will also look at what you call fallacy. So, and then that will be the end of that part. Thank you very much.